Doing well. Okay. Hope everybody's doing well. Just a little bit of technical difficulties today, but we're figuring it all out. This is what happens when you allow your children to. There we go. Okay. We are good today. Here we are. All right. Wonderful. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Friday for those that are joining us live, for those that are here watching it on demand. Actually, it's Thursday. Look at that. This is a short week this week. This week is the week where we have a holiday, so it feels like a Friday. Yesterday, we jumped into the area of flow, how important it is for us to maintain the balance of life, thinking, and acting. And when you can live in the world of actions properly, you find a way to be engaged in it, then you achieve this incredible thing called flow. Flow is this state of mind where you're allocating all of your attention, all of your conscious brain power to something, and then as a result you feel like as if you're lost in it. Time seems to fly by. The reason why that happens is because your brain sort of is aware of time, but when it's all focused it stops being aware of time. Now, the reason why this is so critical is because the research done by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was that don't think that people that are world-class performers are born differently. They've worked on themselves. You can't just let it like get lost in a game of basketball and show up and play, Steph Curry. But whatever you're doing in your life, your perspective, your mentality is playing a critical role in it. One of the great questions that are coming up now, and by the way, just before we'll go back to flow, and I hope that those that are here, those that have been coming back, thank you. Those that are here for the first time, welcome. But if you've been coming back, we're using certain expressions again and again and again, and I hope that over time, like we'll start to develop this language that we understand. Crossover, neuroplasticity, right? The thinking, acting. Like there's a couple of sort of themes, but what's critical from when you get into the world of flow is that the flow actually deepens you, so that you feel less empty with things. Right? This happened to me recently. I was studying a page in Talmud, and I had sort of gotten on a part where I didn't fully understand the concept. So I was like, my brain's like, just let's go. You got it. Let's go. And I had this feeling of, I don't really understand it. And I remember, because we're reviewing this together, thinking to myself, like, no, slow down, get lost in it, like figure it out. And I spent like 15 minutes on like 2 lines to understand what it really was talking about and to learn all the pieces of it, and the depth of my connection to that page of Talmud went up exponentially. A lot of the reasons why we feel sometimes empty, it's because the things that we're interacting with, it in a shallow way. We don't need to do more things. This happens to many of us that are balancing multiple things in life. And we're still wondering why we don't feel more satisfied. We have everything we want. Guys are telling me that like they've been spending 10 years of their lives praying to not travel as much as they do. They're sitting in their houses now and they're like, well, why don't I feel better about it? And the answer is because you're not engaged in your home properly. You're not finding flow with your children, and flow with your spouse, and flow with the stuff that is in the four walls. So when you don't find flow in something, you need more things to distract you to keep you moving. And you become 1 mile wide and not 1 mile deep. How do we do it? So I want to talk to you about a concept today called pairing. We're going to talk a little bit more about this maybe next week, about habit forming. But when we think about rituals and we think about habits, we have to be strategic as to how we build new habits. Habits don't come out of nowhere. And your brain won't change just because you sort of want it to. It takes time. Neuroplasticity, it takes time to condition the brain. Lots of times when you have an interest of staying in the game, right? You want to achieve flow. So you say, I want to achieve flow, so I'm going to get lost in my rituals. When I'm acting, I'm all in. Great. But somehow you go the whole week and you haven't really done anything. You sit down, you write your vision, you identify a ritual, you're like, I'm in, I'm doing it. Like, let's rock and roll. And then you forgot to do it day 1, you forgot to do it day 2, you're in day 5. Like, it just doesn't go. And you're like, what's wrong with me? I know I want to do it. Like, it was only 5 minutes. How come I'm missing it? And the reason is because lots of people make their rituals or their actions in an island of itself. Right? We're having this great conversation. There's a great conversation recently about neighborhoods. How did neighborhoods build? So everyone has, when you're young, at least I had this when I was young. When you're young, you have this like dream of like, you're going to find some plot of land somewhere. You're going to find some underdeveloped area. You're going to call your friends. You're going to move into this area. You're going to build this. You're going to build that. And you build like a sort of, from scratch, a little island in the middle of this town or this neighborhood, that. And in this island, like, you build and you create and you grow, and it's gorgeous and it's amazing. And that happens sometimes. But that's a lot harder than it even looks. The way neighborhoods typically grow is that there's an already existing neighborhood. And somebody just buys a house 2 blocks outside the actual neighborhood. And then that fills up and someone buys a house 2 blocks after that. And then 2 blocks after that. And before you know it, this little tiny neighborhood that had people and infrastructure just expands and expands and expands. And then at some point, the area here becomes the center. And the reason why that works is because it's so hard to build in isolation. The infrastructure that you need to build from scratch is so difficult. It happens, you have development, but developments are so much more complicated than expansion of existing neighborhoods. And people make this mistake all the time. I spent lots of my life in real estate. Lots of people lost millions of dollars thinking that, it'd be a great idea. Let me buy this plot or do this or that, and realizing that it's so much harder to get people to do things. It happens, but really where you see lots of success in real estate is when you look at understanding the expansion impact, and you buy a couple of blocks or a couple of miles in a direction and you watch it flow in. In many cases, that's how habits work. That's how rituals work. You have to pair your new ritual, with an existing ritual. You can't stick it off in the middle of nowhere. Your brain already has rituals. Your brain already knows that it's got to do things. I was on the phone yesterday with somebody who was having a challenge in some way, and there's a relationship challenge. And he was saying to me, how do I create boundaries? And I said, you already have boundaries. In this relationship with an older family member, there's already boundaries. Just look at those boundaries you already have and just extend them a little bit. That's how it works in our minds. We already do things every day. We already have rituals. We get up, for the most part, I hope, around the same time. We usually have a morning routine that's the same. We usually eat at similar times. We typically tend to have some level of structure to our days already. And the greatest way to introduce new rituals, new activities, is to find something that you are already doing in a structured way, and either enhance it or add to it. It's a lot easier to get up 5 minutes earlier than it is to get up 2 hours earlier. And if you got up 5 minutes earlier every single day for a couple of days, you'll start to realize that you can start to make inroads into when you want to get up in the morning. It's a lot easier to extend your morning routine to include something that's more meaningful, to begin your morning routine with something more meaningful than it is to take that thing that you want to do and do it in isolation. It's a lot easier to, when you come home, when you eat dinner, before you go to bed, when you look at your days, look for the parts of your days that are the least reactionary. When I look at my day, there are hours that I have zero control over. Because as the day starts, the day takes whatever it takes, and I have to be available to react to parts of my day. If I stick my ritual in that part, I'm done. It never happens. But there are other parts of my day. And the goal is not to put it wherever. The goal is to basically take your day and extend it from established areas. If you look at your morning and look at your evening, both of those are established neighborhoods with infrastructure. Your morning has the infrastructure of where you're going to be and how you're going to act, and many times how you're going to eat and how you're going to sleep and where you're going to go. There's locations in this morning routine. There's things that you're doing already, rituals, eating, brushing your teeth, right? The morning time is an established neighborhood. The evening time is an established neighborhood. When you're done with work, what do you do at the evening? How you wind down, how you get to bed, eating, you go back to a location. Those two bookends. You may have a middle established ritual. You go to the same office, you sit in the same desk, you do the same thing for lunch. But throughout our days, we have established neighborhoods. The greatest way to create rituals and actions that are based on our visions is to first take both of those neighborhoods and to enhance them and then to extend them. And when you enhance your morning and when you enhance your evening, and then when you start to extend your morning earlier and later, and then when you start to extend your evening earlier or later, what ends up happening is that you are using the time that is already given to structure to increase the proactive building that we need so badly. Because the only way we can start to make an inroad to becoming the people, to accomplish our vision, is when we're able to be proactive in our actions. Only through proactivity are we able to build the right habits, to build the right rituals, to build the right neuroplasticity. And the only way really to do that is to be strategic in where we're going to be proactive. I did this a little bit yesterday, I think. One of the great ways in which you can deal with being reactionary is by creating time that's designed just to be reactionary. And you can do this for almost anything. When someone does something that upsets you, you can identify a time during the day in which you will allow yourself to sort of wallow in that. And that's coming later. When you have to deal with emails or reactions, whatever you're doing, you deal with it at a certain time, because you can always have to deal with it. The way you deal with issues that pop in when you're in proactive mode is you defer them, because they'll always be there. I remember seeing this years ago. I was watching some documentary about a president. I forgot which one. And there was a moment where he was about to deliver, I forgot, it was a long time. I don't remember if it was Kennedy. I forgot which one. He was about to deliver a speech to elementary school kids in the White House. I don't remember who it was. And this thing was talking about leadership and how leadership needs to know how to pivot or crossover, depending on who you ask. And the president was in the Oval Office, and they had just told him that one of the military missions had failed and soldiers were killed. And it was going to cause embarrassment to the country, and it was going to cause pain and suffering to our greatest. And the president was blown away by it. And then the next thing on his schedule, this was an emergency meeting, was to meet a bunch of elementary school kids. And the president sort of stood in the threshold of his office and composed himself. And then walked in, and like nothing happened, was totally present for those kids. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The idea to be in every moment, knowing you may have to go back to someplace else afterwards, knowing that he'll have to go back to those emotions. He'll have to go back to the challenges that he's going to deal in the aftermath, but he'll defer it for a few hours. He'll defer it for an hour. The mastery over the emotions that enable you to engage in activities that are taking us all over the place, the reactionary part of our day, the disappointments that we deal with, the information that comes at us. Though that's part of life. You can never, for the most part, leave that if you're going to live in this world. Yeah, you can like go somewhere for a month and live by yourself. Like, come on. Every time I like, especially when I was much younger and I was like digesting personal growth material like crazy. I was like a fire hose digesting it. There was like this theme that kept on bothering me. Like, it seemed like half the people that were like gurus, they all were like single guys in their 30s that were like half financially wealthy or made money on the products that they were selling. And I'm like, yeah, like you can get on a plane and like go away for a week. I'm like, really? I can't do that. Wait, you could just, you know, a mortgage? Like, you know, a kid? Yeah, I'm wondering why you're like finding yourself for like 3 hours. Yeah, of course you can put on a backpack and like go live your dreams. Like, you don't have anything to hold back to. Like, that's amazing. Most of us can't live that way. We have responsibilities. We have families. So how do we grow? And the answer is that if you're properly building your neighborhoods in the morning and building your neighborhoods in the evening, if you're properly enhancing your rituals and then slowly adding to your rituals, and then you're deferring your reactionary moments to specific times during your day, what's happening is you're strengthening your proactive time. You're allowing yourself permission to get lost. You know, at 12 o'clock, you'll be logged into whatever you need to log into, but now it's 9 o'clock in the morning. You have your half an hour allocated for the thing that you want to be working on, for the book you always wanted to write, for the conversations you always wanted to have, for the studying you always wanted to study. And you know you have your time to react. So when that email pops up, you don't get thrown. Or when that thought pops in, you don't get thrown. Or when you remember, I forgot to, you don't get thrown because you're going to do it in a few hours. You get to be free to find flow in the moments of your day where you're finding flow. And then as you start to achieve, all you really do is just extend the neighborhood. You go back into your world and go, wait, this thing that I'm dealing with, can I have been proactive with it and got ahead of it? And then it doesn't have to pop up at me. And the game really is to throw all the reactionary, oh my gosh, emotions, I can't believe it, this is into one little area of time. And to create the bookends. This happens in Judaism. We have this concept of where you're supposed to recite the Shema in the mornings and in the evenings. Maybe for this reason, because God goes, I know your day is going to be busy. If you give me the mornings to be focused and you give me the evenings to be focused, those two neighborhoods will begin the process of building you up internally. All right, so we're off tomorrow. Tomorrow's the holiday of Shavuot. We're looking forward to picking up again next week. Thanks for a great week. Thanks for everybody who's been asking for the workbook. Sorry, we're getting it to everybody. Sorry for the delay. And maybe next week we'll start to go in a little bit more practically as to how to find the vision, then find the rituals and the bees, and we'll get into a world of be do have maybe next week. For those that are tuning in, want to know how to get this, it's Facebook Live every day at 9 with God's help at Momentum, or in my Facebook page, Charlie Harari, or Charles Harari, I don't remember which one. It's live on Zoom for those who have the information. It's on WhatsApp I'm sorry, there's a chat on WhatsApp if you want to be part of that, and it's live, and then it's on demand on my Instagram and on my YouTube page. All right, everybody, have an awesome weekend. Chag Sameach, happy holidays, and see you next week. Having a great, great, amazing, awesome day.